Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Param Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Om Shwara, we are back with the 13th chapter of the Gita, a beleza do Gita, the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. We have seen previous class the nature of Kshetram and Kshetranya. We remember there were five technical words that Arjuna asked for further clarification. As we remember, they are all condensed into two principles. One is with Atma, the other is Anatma, or howsoever we want to put it. It's spirit and matter, energy. So we have seen that under Kshetra, there are 24 tattvas, all belong to the category of Kshetra. They are born out of the Prakriti of Maya. They almost like unavoidably, these properties, they unfold up to produce attachments and aversions because the jiva, especially the human jiva, was designed to experience and to choose. The free will, we choose what we like and what we don't, and then it produce attachment and repulsion, and with that pleasure and pain, sukha and dukkha. So we have seen all of that, and then we came to today's class with the verse humility, simplicity, non-violence, forbearance, uprightness, serves to the guru, purity, steadfastness, self-control, detachment from sense objects, absence of egoism, constantly seeing the defect or pain in within this duality, which begins with the birth, appearance of the physical body, and then the old age, illness, and death. So he's describing the features or the qualifications or the nature of which are necessary for successful assimilation of this teaching, or the virtues sometimes is put as virtues. No identification with people and things around us, such mind, ahamkara, mamakara. Always being equanimous, indesirable and undesirable experience or situations or events or object. Non-indulgence with, how you say in English, is socializing. No indulgence with socialization. I need to socialize. No, human beings are social beings. They must socialize. No, it's not really. Ignorance is common to all human beings. And all human beings, they feel lonely. And they want to socialize. And through socialization, they get themselves into some trouble, some conflicts. So constant self-inquiry is the ultimate sadhana of Vedanta, is to live your life through associating with people, place, and things, but without ever losing the perspective that I am of the nature of consciousness. I am that which illumines and reveals this experiencer experienced realm of duality. So I am illumining everything. I am the only reality. I am Atma. Chetran world, Mithya world is Mithya, is an apparent projection. So never lose this perspective of assessment, remembering, never losing sight of one's goal in life, which is to enjoy the fruits of self-knowledge. You have to go through the process of self-inquiry, Atma Vichara, or Nididhyasana, and in order to make this Nididhyasana, this Atma Vichara, constant and firm, continuous, I need to keep sight of what is there outside of the tunnel, so to speak. So outside that there is light, there is freedom, there is knowledge, there is peace. So we should never lose sight of the benefits at the conclusion of this process of recognition that I was already free, I will ever be free, because freedom as consciousness is my intrinsic nature. As we know, the process is a cognitive process. So it's just a question of understanding to a certain extent that somehow my understanding is no longer challenged and destroyed by ignorant vasas is still pushing me around and knocking down my wisdom, my spiritual conviction. All of Jesus said to be Jnana. Jnana here in this context are the virtues or the qualifications that allows us to complete our journey. Anything which is opposite to these virtues is non-virtues. Jnana goes for virtues or qualification. The opposite of this is, virtues and no virtues. I don't know how you would say, what is the opposite of virtues? Virtues and
do we just say unvirtuous? I don't know. Mark might have a better
okay.
I was
thought.
going to say sins.
Yeah. Yeah, our flaws or our shortfalls and our negative tendencies and so on. Let me see one thing here because I'm going to get my glass of water that I forgot to bring here. Just 10 seconds. Okay. So humility we understand because the ego governed or moved by self-ignorance is the opposite of humility. It just believes to be the doer, the experiencer, and believes to have control over its destiny. Is a goal-getter. It's something completely other than humble. So humbleness, I put humility, I put as a pre-qualification together with patience and trust. Simplicity, it's also a beautiful virtue because a person who is not so much controlled by raga vesha, but my likes and dislikes, the person who is far from being a perfectionist, wants things my way, and is said to be a simple person. But if the person is moving from a huge body of likes and dislikes, of desires and aversions, the complexity we see that person, the life of that person is huge. And complexity goes as an opposition to simplicity. I mean, if you don't have much rugged version, so you're a simple person, you just take things as they come. You are humble, you are simple. It's not only simple in the sense of wanting to live a simple material lifestyle. No, no, I just need a bicycle, I just need a small house and so on. No, you are mentally, emotionally simple because you have reduced the pressure of realization extensively. Therefore, the person is non-violent because raga and vesha is that which compels the person to sooner or later act in a violent manner because we want so much what we want, and we don't want our desires to be obstructed. And sometimes we use we use verbal uh, violence, sometimes even physical. Forbearance goes to the fact that the individual is able to take the difficult moments of life, the adversities, the downsides, the challenges, the papas, with elegance. Okay, so it's just like it is what it is. I am strong. That's what Swam says is a very strong and balanced mind. So forbearance, detection, just like it's okay. Nothing is going to bring me down because I understood the Shwara system. I understood how the game of life moves. I know I have no control, yet I have a certain understanding of the entire rules of this play in a way that I stop myself from trying the impossible mission, which is, try to control something that belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara is the only karma para datam. All of this has to be, based on profound understanding. This understanding brings about more humility, more simplicity, more non-violence, and the fortitude to deal with difficult moments, uprightness. So the person who has this level of understanding, he is not going to be violating dharma. He's going to be following the rules of the game of life, and this is a very important feature or virtue because if you're not upright person, it means to say that you are just breaking the rules, breaking Ishvara's rules here and there, and that creates difficult for you and for the environment and the people around you. So you are just supplanting papa karma by doing papa actions. Service to the teacher is something difficult to be interpreted because in the old days there were the gurukulas and the guru was there and the young students who used to go there at early age, and in the beginning they were supposed to help the teacher, help the teacher to keep things in place. So sometimes I say like, so more often than not, the person becomes wiser as it grows older. We say in the USA, older and wiser because you are acquiring more experience. Unfortunately, the experience does not necessarily translate to wisdom, but in some case it does so. So most of the gurus, they have this wisdom on a more advanced age. So serves to the teacher is helping the teacher to take care of this body, the aging body, and create an environment in which the teacher can exercise its role of exposing the teachings,
Do
Purity
you,
goes to,
I'm sorry. Do you remember when Ramji said service to the teacher is uh, alliance with the knowledge or something like that?
yeah,
So,
many things can be said, okay?
yeah.
He may say that. I remember very well. I know everything he has ever said since I got to meet him up to about 7, 8 years ago. But the idea that serves to the teacher is just to assimilate the knowledge and to assimilate and benefit from the knowledge or do your homework. You are serving the teacher. Okay, so this is an angle, and we can say many things, but serves to the teacher is more like an attitude. Uh, in terms of surrendering to the teacher, and literally in the old days was to help the teacher in the Gurukula as well, and in a more broader analysis is to help not only the guru but the Gurukula, the Sampradaya, to hold a space in which more disciples can benefit from this teaching. There is always some contribution. So we could say that service to the teacher is contribution towards the sampradaya, do something, not only taking, but giving back to the gurukula, to the teacher, to the environment. You understand? And because Westerners have a huge trouble with this concept of service to the guru, you know. And Ramji has always avoided those aspects of the teachings that could provoke, a rejection to the general public in the West. So he used to go around certain concepts, explain it philosophically in a lighter way. Okay, so steadfastness, purity is very important. A pure mind. So purity of mind, purity of heart, a person who is sensible and wish the best for everyone, wish to do whatsoever possible to protect the Dharma field so that more people can process uh, ignorance, transforming it into wisdom. So a pure person is most important. A person with pure intentions. One's actions may not be that pure here and there, but we have to look at the purity of intention uh, behind the individual soul. So everyone has certain residual impurities that may express as impure actions. But a pure soul has always an intention to overcome any residual impurity, no? Not because one wants to be seen as a saint, because to be pure is to be in peace, to be beautiful, to be in peace. So your conscience is in peace. You have no mental conflicts. You do what you can in spite of everyone's limitations, but yet the intention is uh, spiritual purification, or I like to put spiritual elevation. Steadfastness. I think steadfastness is a word I'm not very familiar, but it's a strong resolve, right? So it's a strong resolve, unshakable resolve that, that is the purpose of my life. And I'm here for my freedom, and that requires spiritual purification, elevation, refinement of my mind, and so on. And this absolutely certainty of resolve. uh, Not those New Year's resolve that we know, especially in the American culture, was very common. Uh, so it's nothing wrong with do those resolves in the closing of the year, but here is a strong, firm, clear resolve that is unshakable and does not require one day in a year, but it's an everyday resolve that is is consolidated and always present, you know. Self-control, control of the self-control means control of the mind, control of the sense organs, the instruments of actions. You know? It's control is a word that a lot of the time has a connotation of suppression. You know, I like more like self-discipline, you know, self-vigilance and self-discipline so that I can keep my thoughts, my tendencies, my emotions, my words, my sense, my actions, everything is in check. So I'm all the time watchful. But this watchfulness is not something that's taking you from whatsoever you are doing. It's in the background. You understand? It's more like in the background. Detachment from the objects, the sense objects, all the objects, sensory objects, because they can only be captured through the five senses. So they cause attachment, and then you have to find a way to avoid attachment from the object that comes through the five senses. And we have a sixth sense, which is the mind that somehow integrates the five senses in one single assessment or conclusion in regards to an object. And then we have to overcome this video tendency to classify every contact with object as something that I like or I dislike, you know, I want or I don't want. Desires and aversions, we have to avoid that. And then one thing's like, okay, I'm going to avoid that. The only way is detachment. Okay. So it's not detachment in the sense that you don't contact the world through your five senses and your mind, you know. Is an inner detachment which can only be possible by discipline, of course, but a profound understanding that life is a trap. It causes detachment, attachment, and attachment causes suffering, you know, pleasure and pain. And every pleasure is defect by nature and comes with the certainty on an unconscious level, that will pass as well. Nothing is forever. So there is the fact through uh, within any and all object of desire. To practice detachment is a constant vigilance, discipline, and remembrancing of the defects behind all kinds of objects of desires. You know? Absence of egoism. So this is big. You need to become a good karma yogi to cruise through a life away from that perspective of life that it's all about me, you know. So the Sakama Kama Yoga has to grow to become a Niskama Kama Yoga, meaning to say he still has his goals in life, but it's not only about me, you know, it's about my brothers and neighbors and the entire town and city and the planet as overall beings in the planet. So this expansion of the mind that goes beyond the movements we see in every one of us to accomplish things. The accomplishment should not be just about me, my wife, and my children. Should expand to society in general. So again, how are you going to avoid that self-centered egoism? You know, and it's by vigilance, of course, observing the manifestation of these bits and pieces of ignorance, and then remembering the wisdom, the knowledge, and then using the knowledge to neutralize those ignorant tendencies again and again and again. For how long? For as long as it is needed. Constantly seeing the defects. And here he put not defect on the objects of attachment, but constantly seeing the defect inherent in life itself, because we suffer great pain to be born, and then we, more often than not, we suffer great pains through life, definitely in old age, illness, and death. Most ajñanis suffer the ultimate, huge, extreme, radical pain, which is the pain, oh my God, I'm losing my body, I'm losing myself. So there is pain in old age, because old age comes with disease, and then what is behind old age and disease is death, and the individual start foreseeing that you know, we are in a queue, in a line of people like that, and we are getting closer and closer to our passage, to that window in which you leave the body behind. So it's better one understands the purpose of life, and because if there is an understanding, and understand that life ultimately is a setup to produce frustration until the individual turns its attention from the world that promised so much to its own self, which is the only source of peace and satisfaction. It seems to be that the purpose. You understood that, and then of course you become dispassionate. Dispassion, non-identification with my family members, my house, my belongings, my properties, always being equanimous in situations regards of favorable, desirable, or unfavorable. Non-indulgence in socializing with people. No indulgence in socializing with people. So we don't need to be radical, because most human beings in the process of self-knowledge, they still need socialization. And what the scriptures say is like, so entertainment is okay, and you find entertainment chit-chatting with people or neighbors or this and that sometimes, but be moderate, you understand? Don't overdo it. So see the defect. Yet if there is a pressure from socializing, and you can do that, but moderately. So don't indulge too much in chit-chatting with people around you. And this is very, very easily and commonly observed when we do some Vedanta seminars or any other spiritual seminar. And before I came to Vedanta, I did some it was not called seminars in the Neo-Advaita movement. It's called spiritual retreats. I did several spiritual retreats as well when I was living my 15 years in USA. I did some spiritual retreats with those Neo-Advaita teachers. And some of them used to say, okay, so it's a silent retreat. It is a silent retreat. And then with some exceptions, so there is one day that people can chit chat, otherwise it's a silent retreat. Or some parts of the days you have to stay silent. And there is a reason to stay silent because you are listening to the teacher. The teacher is presenting some concepts which requires contemplation. And if the mind has difficult to stay with those concepts which are meant to be contemplated and reflected upon, and if the teacher allows chit-chatting all through the retreat, so the individual is just listening to the teacher, and then the moment the teacher says, "Okay, break time," and then it begins everybody disperse with chit-chatting, talking about things that mostly are not related to what the teacher has exposed. You understand? One may say human nature. Yes, human nature. I have seen it big time around Papaji as well, that I used to be like shocked, going to a kind of space of samadhi, we sing satsang in the presence of the guru, and then the moment the guru stands up, right there in the satsang hall, it begins that noise of I was always a little bit surprised to see that. Anyhow, uh, human nature, human ignorance, inability to stay within what was exposed, but right away, almost as if it is a pressure cooker, you have been holding that pressure, holding your attention, 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 but it's difficult because the mind is not pure enough to produce one pointedness, or a large attention span, and then at the moment the satsang stops, and then that pressure cooker just poof, the valve goes off, and then people goes all over the place chit-chatting. Constant self-inquiry. All this is said to be Jñanam, or virtues. So we have concluded before the previous analysis on Kshatran and Kshatranya. When we look at this, Swami is explaining something that he learned from Adi Shankara. He says that Krishna Guru has said that I will explain Kshetra and Kshetranya in great details, great details. But then he jumps into another topic without explaining more deeply, elaborating more deeply what is Kshetranya. But he made a promise, I'm going to explain Kshetran and Kshetranya, and he stayed with Kshetran, and it's understandable because Kshetran, which is the phenomenal world object that somehow bind to human jivas and so on, is a much wider topic, And then he jumps now to the next topic without elaborating on Kshetranya. Okay? So Swamiji says that Shankaracharya came to support and protect the reputation of Krishna Guru. He said he did not forget his promise. He says that Krishna is a very, very, very skilled teacher, and he would not make a promise and forget. Shankaracharya gives an explanation. Kshetrana is identical, synonymous of Jnana. Oh, I forgot to know how to pronounce it. Jnana.
Yeah, I think it's Nyaya.
Ineya. Okay, Ineya. Ineya. Okay. Now I'm not going for Ineya. So Kshetranya is identical to Ineya and Purusha. So three different words, meaning the same thing with different variations. I have said before, I do not know whether you remember Kshetranya, Ineya, and Purusha. All the three means the spirit consciousness principle. Okay, so He's going to come back to that once he start, unfolding the meaning of those other words. He does not need to deal with any one of those words separately. He is going to explain them on, how you say? Together. If anybody says, I want to learn Vedanta, Swami explains. So if anybody says, I want to learn Vedanta in Upanishads, it means he wants to learn either Vedanta or Upanishad because they mean the same thing. There are several examples. Krishna decides somehow that he leaves out Kshetra and now he's going to elaborate that through the description of Jnana and later on Purusha. Therefore, Jnana and Purusha description, therefore Shankara says Krishna has not forgot and he should get full marks in his examination as a super guru. Having completed the topic of Kshetra and apparently complete the topic of Kshetranya, now Krishna comes to the third topic, which is the top of Jnanam, which is this verse presents, which is nothing but virtues. And we have seen already why virtues here are presented as Jnanam. It's because without these virtues, which is another name for qualification or development, Jnana is impossible. Jnana comes only when the individual has developed certain virtues or qualifications, because without these virtues or qualification, jnana is impossible. So, and what is the meaning of jnana in this chapter? It has a special meaning in this context. It's not knowledge. Usually, jnana means knowledge. Any knowledge is jnana. In this context is the philosophical meaning of jnana is not spiritual knowledge. In the context of philosophy of Vedanta, it means atma-jnana. So when we say jnana, is self-knowledge, okay? It's not knowledge of anything but the atma, the self, okay? Or brahma-jnana, or spiritual knowledge. But in this particular context, jnana has got a different meaning, and that is the values of life or the virtues of a person. Is called Sadgunaha, which is also called Jnana. Okay, so there is another word that Sadgunaha, which means these virtues or these qualifications or values. Therefore, gunaha here means virtues. Okay, Sadgunaha, which is synonymous to what is presented here as jnana or virtues. Okay, so it's not something absolutely difficult to understand that the same word serves for different meanings. In English language, we have words that have different meanings. In Sanskrit, they say that's even more, So we have a limited amount of words, and depending on the context, it can be used to point to different things, So Krishna here is enumerate 20 virtues. Shankaracharya gives the reason also for that. He says if these virtues are there, knowledge is very, very easy. Jnana is as good as attained if these virtues or qualifications are already established. Since these virtues promote Knowledge is virtues themselves is called jnana. So jnana, karanatvana, karanatvat, jnana. The details on the next slide. So a lot of the times when we see the scripture presenting the virtues or the qualification, it's we may all almost feel like okay, so what is the fine line here between these qualifications, these virtues, and self-knowledge? Because simplicity, non-violence, forbearance, detachment, purity, steadfastness, self-discipline, all of these are features of the individual that got Atmayana, you understand? Because Atmayana manifests as virtues. So what is the fine line between virtues before Atmayana and after Atmayana? You understand? So before Atmayana, these virtues are meant to serve as a model, a role model, or our goal. I want to get these qualifications. Why? Because without these virtues, self-knowledge is almost impossible. So I want to have these virtues. And now, when you have all these virtues and then you did your work, you did do your work, and they don't need to be radically, extremely, all fully developed, because there is no such a thing as 100% purity or 100% detachment, 100% this. It's relatively developed. And then once it's relatively developed, what happens? So you are in a position that you are qualified for self-recognition and assimilation, internalization of what you are. Okay? So now, before self-recognition comes, you need to put your house in order, developing these virtues or most of these virtues. And then, so to speak, there is a moment that comes self-recognition. And then you will see that these virtues, they grow potentially, they manifest even more strongly after self-recognition. The virtues are the same. Virtues are the same before and after. Okay, so you look at, but this is almost like the features of a yani. Yes, but the ajñani is going to become a yani to the degree that some disqualifications are developed, and it's going to be developed by doing karma, dhamma, upasana, shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. And then once we have everything in place, and then self-knowledge is going to be established in the mind at any moment in time. Okay, so it's the same features, the same how I said, virtues or qualifications, and they conduce us to self-knowledge. Therefore, Shankaracharya says these qualifications, they are as good as self-knowledge. Why? Because it's what takes you there. Once you develop them, and then you are almost as good as done, as cooked. So the next file here, Swami does a recap. An Atma is called Kshetran, Atma is called Kshetranya. There are two principles, spirit and spirit and matter, consciousness and matter. Those six technical words are going to be condensed fundamentally in two, which is spirit or consciousness and matter. Okay. Jnana here is not knowledge, but means virtues. So, and then someone put this expression here. Well, in this context, Jnanam, the group of mental virtues, the group of mental virtues required to enjoy a fit mind for gaining spiritual knowledge. That's a very nice sentence. It is a group of mental virtues which precede, the mental condition for gaining a spiritual self-knowledge. So spiritual self-knowledge, friendly virtues, because there are many other virtues considered socially, social virtues that are not friendly to self-knowledge, spiritual knowledge. But we want to have this spiritual knowledge friendly virtues. I like that. Like environment friendly, we have spiritual knowledge friendly virtues, friendly to what? To self-knowledge. In the presence of these virtues, mind will gain self-knowledge, and in the absence of these virtues, the mind will be jnana ayogyam. Can you remind me the meaning of this ayogyam, please?
It's not fit for spiritual knowledge.
Okay, thank you. An unprepared, uncultivated, unfit mind, it will be a soil that will not sprout into self-knowledge. As if spiritual knowledge is injected in such a mind, in such a soil by the guru, it is imparted by the mind. The unprepared mind resists the knowledge, it will not receive the knowledge. If it receives reluctantly. Therefore, it's going to fight, it's going to filter, it's going to reject, and will miss the opportunity to assimilate the knowledge. And why the mind does that? Because the mind is attached to the notions and concepts it has around spiritual knowledge, And then if the guru presents the knowledge, the scriptural knowledge, the sacred knowledge, if the mind is not familiarized with that knowledge, more often than not, though the spiritual, scriptural, sacred knowledge will gonna challenge most of what we call spiritual knowledge we find in the spiritual circles, because it's absolutely radical and absolutely counterintuitive. So the individual is going to resist it, and then unassimilated Vedanta teaching of any scripture is like poison. That is a radical statement. It's going to produce undigested toxins. Food is nourishing when it's digested, but it remains undigested, it's poison. That's why it's sad. Similarly, Jñanam, did you translate this Sanskrit phrase here, Lynn?
Yeah, it just says knowledge or scripture is like poison if it's not practiced or kept in constant study. And then the simile, food acts as poison if eaten while the previous meal is still undigested.
Yeah.
This as poison thing I don't get really. What can we say about that?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't remember because I read this text last week. I don't know if Swami is going to elaborate on this. It's a radical statement. So the guru is there unfolding the knowledge, and the disciples receiving the knowledge, and it is resisting the knowledge, it's fighting the knowledge, and therefore not assimilating the knowledge, developing a critical attitude towards the teachings. And then of course the listener is not going to benefit. It's going to be counterproductive. And then the analogy that food, if it's not really assimilated, it's not going to nourish, but it's going to produce indigestion, you know. So indigestion produce some how you say? I just use the word some toxins. You know, undigested food sits there in our digestion tract or system. It produces a lot of toxins, you know. So what is the parallel here? Some people they come to Vedanta and uh, and they have this negative, rejecting attitude, challenging attitude, as if they are wise people, as if they are already free. And then first thing is they lose the opportunity to benefit from these teachings, you know. And but they keep accumulating it, and more often than not, it's on a academic level. And not only they have it on academic level, but they have it in comparison with several other spiritual philosophies. I know because I have seen it in the Vedanta Brazil. The more, the better. You understand? I'm a scholar. I'm academic. You know, this and that, and then you're going to impress some people, but you're going to suffer what Swami is suggesting here, or the scriptures suggest, as indigestion that can produce a certain toxin that's going to hurt you after all. And so, in which way this can be seen in as an analogy? We could speculate in different levels because uh, what is the worst possible toxin than delusion? You know, so delusion is the ultimate toxin of the sickness of samsara. You know, you got so confused, you exposed to several disciplines. You took it that all there is academic knowledge. I am an academic, and therefore I must be free. I can expose the teachings, and then I mean, the person is living delusion. Delusion. It did challenge the scriptures, did challenge the guru, and assume that they are already self-realized. The ego is going to take over, and the non-assimilation of these teachings is going to, rather than neutralize the ego, is going to feed the ego. The ego is going to become a spiritual ego, and then the delusion is going to grow. And this is a sort of toxin, that destroys the person spiritually, because there are two kinds of ajñanis. There is one ajñani that knows I am ajñani. So the ajñani who knows that as a fact, it's available to receive and assimilate the teachings to the possibility of each one. But the person who is ajñani but believes to be jnani, there is nothing that can be done to such a person. And the person is going to be trapped in the superego, this ego that believes that no, now I know everything. I'm a spiritual, philosopher and this and that. And the person is stuck, and destroys the person in terms of one more birth was destroyed by the toxin called the vanity of the ego that produce huge delusion. There are two kinds of delusion. Sometimes I have been saying that in my classes. One is the delusion of the yogis that somehow assume the experiential path, that Brahman is a state of samadhi, and then somehow through much practice the person has access to those mental states, and those mental states begin appearing as the ultimate reality, and the person lose the understanding, the perspective that that reality is the light of consciousness, illumining and revealing that these or that sort of states, the states have nothing to do with reality. But the person who experienced the reflex of consciousness on a sattvic mind, the person who is moving, in the experiential side of spirituality, is deluded. There is an expression we used to mention that in Shine World, which is stuck in sattva. This is a delusion. So there is another delusion which is more common among the devotees, Vedantins. The experiential reflection is more common within the yogis who are seeking samadhi as a means to liberation, But for the Vedantins that are seeking understanding, the delusion comes in the form of academic knowledge. They end up taking the academic knowledge as direct knowledge. So in order to assimilate this knowledge in a way that there are no residual ignorance or toxins, preventing my freedom, I have to have this Vedanta-friendly virtues, otherwise called Dhamma. Let's see if Swami says something else here. That's why we repeatedly say Dhamma is a stepping stone in the process towards moksha purushartha. Without going through the set of these virtues, a person cannot hope to attain Jnanam. Yeah, it's almost like I was trying to present before, like there is no really clear-cut line between these virtues and self-knowledge, because when the virtues are really developed, self-knowledge is a natural consequence that many times people do not even recognize the difference. I believe in this. I don't know because I did recognize self-recognition when it came, but there is this concept that sometimes the people has become so pure, so virtuous, and so qualified, he's already enjoying the fruits, of the process of development of these virtues, this purity. And then self-recognition comes, and sometimes almost like in an unrecognizable manner. Without going through the set of virtues, it's very difficult to attain jnana or moksha. Therefore, these values are extremely important. Many virtues are enumerated through the Gita. All the scriptures mention the qualifications of virtues. One great acharya known as Brittari. You know how to pronounce his name?
I'm not quite sure. It looks like Brittari. Yeah.
So a great guru known as Brittari wrote a text called Niti Satakam. 100 verses relate to the inner virtue that conduce to self-recognition. Thus, it has been elaborately dealt with. Here, Krishna presents only 20 virtues. Krishna will deal with the same topic again later. You see, within these 20 virtues, there are some of the basic qualifications, which is dispassion. Discrimination was not mentioned. Discipline was mentioned. And desire for self-knowledge, moksha, was mentioned as well. So sometimes this list of qualifications, they are condensed into the 4 Ds of Vedanta. Krishna deals with 20 virtues. He's going to come back to this topic later on. This in the beginning of the introduction. we'll take each virtue one by one and see its meaning and significance. So Swami is going to go into it. The first one given by Lord Krishna is Manitva. Manitva means self-conceit, self-glorification, self-admiration. This is called Manitva. So he's going to take it to a deep psychological level, analyzing the opposite of these virtues and why the opposites of such virtues represent an impediment to self-knowledge, you know. So Manitva means self-conceit, self-glorification, self-admiration, vanity, or howsoever. Uh, Looking upon oneself as a great person, proud, not proud, pride, vanity, you know, which comes with a sense of greatness or arrogance, self-admiration. And a Manitvan is the opposite of all of that, which means freedom from self-conceit, or in a positive language, humility. Humility is freedom from any sense of greatness, which is which more easily, more often than not, is taken to be a feature produced by the jiva itself, which brings about pride and vanity, you know. So humility, absence of vanity and pride, is only possible fundamentally with self-knowledge. Self-knowledge represents the end of the sense of doership and enjoyership. So the identity of the individual soul as the one doing things and enjoying its results as results of my own efforts, my merits, and my merits alone, this is the person under the spell of, you know, manitva, self-glorification, pride, vain, you know. We see it how easily. I saw a friend of mine sometime post something, and now the person is living a good moment. Things are going good, a new relationship, a new job, and this and that. And then say, so we create our reality. We're going to be that which we decide to be, and so on. Everybody must decide. You know, this sense I am the doer. It shines with vanity when people are having a good time, you know. But when people are crashing and hurting, this self admiration and this vanity shrinks, and then the person experience something else altogether. You know, it's just like he doesn't want to come out, show one's face, because there is shame in opposition to vanity. So this management, freedom from this sense of self-glorification or self-conceit and so on, is fundamentally possible when the ego, the sense of being the doer and the enjoyer, is dissolved. Again, so this humility is a virtue which conduces the individual to self-knowledge. It's one of the biggest because it is linked to the dissolution of the sense, egoic sense of being the doer, the enjoyer. So it's something that has to be developed. And once it's developed, and then the person is right there together with other developments, and I say, it's difficult to explain this, to express this in terms of time and space, but it's very near to the final self-recognition. which comes by the blessing of the Lord. So before the ego is totally dissolved, we need to keep remembering these teachings that I'm not the doer, I'm not the enjoyer. Any talent, let's say, or positive feature to any one of us is a vibhuti of Ishvara. It's the glory of Ishvara. It was given by Ishvara. There's nothing that was not given by Ishvara to us. And ultimately, only self-knowledge is going to make the person genuinely humble. You understand? Otherwise, there is always a feeling like I am a great Mahatma, I'm a great Guru, I am a great this, I'm a great that, and I want to be admired, I want to, Manitvam is freedom from this. It's in positive language means humility. Vinayaha, or humility, is the first virtue that Krishna emphasized. And he's going to go on a psychology behind of this obstacle called self-glorification or vanity. We will see it tomorrow. Okay? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. My dear friends and students, we meet tomorrow again. Ishvara willing. Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlindo.
Thank
Okay, see you tomorrow.
you. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.